Welcome to part 1B. Part 1 is going to be kind of long, guys. A couple of phases I want to incorporate in this first part of project management training um, and tools and tips. So, the next items I want to talk about from a project management processes management um, steps, right? So, when you are kicking off your project, you want to focus on key areas: risk management, time management, and communication. So, those are the key areas that will make or break your project. Risk management. Risk management is pivotal in tracking throughout the duration of your project. So when you first get your project stood up, you want to set up your risk trackers and identify your key risk at the beginning of your project, because you're going to always have more risk potentially at the beginning of your project than you will towards the end, if your project is being tracked and monitored correctly. So definitely create a risk management plan. And within your risk management plan, you want to make sure you have categories. So you want your lows, your high, your lows, your mediums, and your highs. And so your lows are risk that could potentially will happen. You're not quite sure, they could occur, but you want to document them. So you document them and label them as lows. The next one are your mediums. Your medium risk are kind of like that in between, where you think, I think it's pretty much going to happen, and I want to make sure I track them, monitor them, but I have a mitigation plan in place. So definitely look through your timeline, talk to your team, your stakeholders, and identify those risks. And so the next one would be the high risk. The high risks are the ones that you absolutely know are going to cause problems in your project, and you definitely want to get a jump start with figuring out how to mitigate them, putting in plans of actions, putting in plan A, plan B, plan C, ways to work around these risks, tracking them, communicating them to leadership, communicating them to stakeholders. Like, these things are really going to affect the project. We need to do our due diligence in terms of preparing for resolving these issues. And the next section I really want to talk about is time management. Time management is tracking all of your deliverables, your tasks. You're making sure your project schedule is being tracked. Your resource management, making sure your resources are, delivering and completing their task on time. Identifying whether they have PTO at key points within the project and things like that. So you want to make sure that you put together certain aspects, checkpoints within the project, like create an Outlook calendar for the team. Definitely your project schedule. Create an Excel action item tracker where everybody knows these things have to happen at what time. And also use OneNote. So OneNote is a really good tool to use when you are taking meeting notes, and linking them to your meeting invites as you're having your team discussions and your client discussions. And so the next one is communication. Communication management. Communication is pivotal in projects. So you have to communicate. You have to make sure that everybody is engaged and they are expressing whether there's concerns or anything that may be occurring, and that everybody understands what the next steps are, how we need to move forward. Everybody's clear. Everybody has it in writing. Sometimes you have to reiterate things over and over again to your team, to your client, to your leadership, and make sure you're drilling it in their brain where they understand these are the important milestones, these are the important tasks, these are the important tracking um, mechanisms, these are the important things that we need to focus on to make sure that we are successful. So having those weekly meetings, having those meeting minutes that come out of your weekly or your status meetings. After you have a meeting, capture your meeting minutes, sending them out to the community, to the team, and making sure that they are clear on if there's any action items that came out of that meeting that they have to follow up, and dates and who owns and things like that. So clear documentation, clear meetings, conversations, making sure that you have somebody who goes into a meeting, and when they're preparing for a meeting, create an agenda so everyone can stay focused and stay on task when they are talking in those meetings. Because a lot of times you'll have people get into meetings, there'll be side conversations, people get sidetracked, and you'll lose focus of your meeting. So you have to make sure that you create a detailed agenda so you can have your talking points. You can reel people back in if they go off on a tangent, and keep the meeting at a focus point where you're able to have a good discussion, and everybody have their game plan in place, and they are ready to move forward within the project. So those are some of the key processes and steps for the beginning phases of your project. So we will talk more in the next video, probably about a couple of other things that are kind of related to kind of understanding what project management is, and then we will wrap up number 1, and then we'll move into number 2. Number 2 will focus on how do you kick off your career as a project manager? What kind of job should you look for? So thank you, and see you in the next video.